Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you a few easy to make handmade cards that you have time to make before Christmas. You can even mail them out. I am doing a few batches of cards because I didn't have enough after all the ones that I'd made already, so I thought I would just kind of share these tips. You can either use them this year, next year, or whenever you like. So these first cards I'm going to show you are going to come from these chipboard shapes. I got a package of 18 at AC Moore. It was an assortment. It was $2 for the whole package, so I figured I could knock out a bunch of cards with those. So the first one we're going to do is this one here. It's really fun and quirky, and we're going to start off with a half a sheet of cardstock that's been folded in half, and we're just going to hit it with our embossing or cornstarch powder, whatever you have, and then we are going to stamp Joy to the World on it. And this I think this is a very old stamp, so it's probably not available anymore, but you could use whatever Christmas stamp you want. And I'm using a black pigment ink, so it will be nice and crisp. And I'm trying not to squish it too hard because I keep getting some rough edges. Oh, that came out well. And now I am going to emboss it here. I've got some embossing powder. And just give it a nice nice coating. I'll tap that back into the jar in a minute, and then we'll heat that right up with our heat tool. Now, if you don't have a heat tool, or you don't want to take the time to do that, don't worry, it's still going to be pretty. You could just stamp it with just black ink and leave it be. All right, we are embossed. Maybe you can see the shine on that if I kind of wiggle it around. And now I'm just going to use a little piece of tape, and I can keep using the same piece of tape over and over again just to hold it down for this next portion here. So I'm going to take my little Christmas tree cutout, and I am just going to kind of look at it, see which side looks better. They both look pretty good. Sometimes you get one side darker than the other, and I wanted the lighter side up. And I'm going to use a mechanical pencil, and I'm just going to trace around the tree and also trace the ornaments on the inside, so I know where to put my acrylic paint, which I have out on my little palette there. And I recommend that you do these in a batch, because you're going to have your paint out. You might as well, you know, do everything all at once. All right, so we're just tracing that. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a brush with some yellow. Oops, I just rolled that into my paint. I'm going to put a little star on the top of my tree here. And just add some decorations. Maybe a few little accent lines. Then I am going to grab the blue brush. And I'm just using very inexpensive, these were like $4 for $1 acrylic paints. You know, this is going to be just fine for this. If you got any smudges, just drag the paint over them. Now just try to go right up to the edge of the tree, but try not to get in where the where your ornaments are. You want just a kind of a painterly loose look. Okay, there. Now I'm going to grab my other brushes with my colors on them. I'm going to do some ornaments. So you're basically just putting a dab of paint over the ornament that you want to color. And maybe I'll do that one. I'm going to end up with a couple together close to each other that is the same color, but that's all right. And then you're simply going to take some glue, and you're going to glue down that ornament, and you don't even have to wait for it to dry. Just make sure you have it lined up, because it's not symmetrical. You got to make sure that you've got the holes the same way so that it will work. You could also use hot glue for this. The zip glue does give you a little bit of time to adjust it before it dries. I think most wet glues will. Whoops, I'm a little off there. And then what I like to do is just put a acrylic stamp block on top, and then like put something to weight it and just let it dry. And that's all there is to that idea. This idea is another card using the exact same supplies, just in a different way. I started off by heat embossing the greeting, and then we're going to do a paint treatment. And I used one color per brush, so that way I wouldn't have to wash my brushes, and I could just keep on going through this this card making session with minimal interruptions. So I do like to tape down my paper paper so that it doesn't go on a journey without me. And I'm going to start with the green. And I'm just going to put a few streaks across the bottom here. This is a neon color, so it might be a little difficult to see. I'm going to wipe my brush off. I was using this one for the yellow just because the yellow one that I had before was a really fine tip brush. And I want kind of big, bold strokes. You could also swipe an ink pad around too if you want. If you don't want to get out paint or you don't have any paint, that's a great way to do it. I have to be careful what fingers I hold my card down with because they've all got a little bit of paint on them at this point. But the wonderful thing about this is that it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's supposed to look really artsy and kind of fussy, not fussy, kind of artsy and childlike. So there's our rainbow of colors, not really, well, spatches of colors anyway. And now I'm going to glue down my little wood shape. So I look at both sides, I see the sides has a little burn mark on it from probably how it was laser cut. And this time I'm going to use hot glue. Hot glue is going to stick just fine, and it will be dry in an instant, which is really, really nice. So if you are good with a glue gun, if you can work fairly quickly, I would recommend hot glue for this project because, you know, we're pretty close to Christmas here. We can, any second we can save will come in handy. So then maybe just hold it down for a few minutes. The wood chip, the wood piece will kind of keep your hands from touching the glue. And there is another card done. And then you can see you can do it in a few minutes. This next card uses the same supplies. You're probably noticing a trend, except what we're going to do is actually paint the wooden pieces. So I've got one here that hasn't been painted yet. And I did add a darker green to the mix because that fluorescent green was just really weak, so, and transparent, so I wanted to make sure it was going to show up on the wood pieces because sometimes they can kind of absorb the color a little bit. So what you want to do is just paint them and let them dry, and I've got plenty of dry pieces. And what I have done here is I used a long stamp. This is Dashing Through the Snow, and I'm just going to tape that down just so I have just so it doesn't move on me. And then I'm going to use hot glue to glue these down. I'm using hot glue for this because it will it'll dry nice and quick. So I decided to use 3 of the shapes on this one because they were kind of small and I didn't think they had that much impact on their own, but I thought if we put them together then that would be a really cute card. And then the final one we will put right over there. So there, since there is 3 of every shape in this pack, I am going to be able to get 12 really cute cards from a $2 pack of charms. So that's something nice when you have that happen, and there you go. So you'll be able to make 3 of those cards. And of course, if you don't have this stamp, this one was by Oriental Trading, you can just do a couple pen lines to make your hill, or tear a piece of paper to do that, and if you could find a sleigh and horse stamp, that would work too. Or, you know, just be creative. You don't have to use that sentiment. You can use whatever you happen to have in your stash of Christmas stamps. This last idea is fun and quick, and you can't help but feel like a kid when you create this card. So the first thing I did was I stamped, you want to find a sentiment that's got a round element in it, and that's kind of the basis of the design we're going to do. And so this is a great use for any really thin paint you have, because I can go over this with the I can go over this black embossed image with that bright neon green paint, and it's great because it's such a transparent color that I can see through it. And now I'm going to grab red for my biggest circle. Now you can do whatever color you like. Red's just my favorite. You could also make a stencil and do this with a stencil if you don't want to freehand it, but I think it really gives it a fun look. And you can see I'm just trying to use every little last bit of my paint that I have there. And I'm going to grab some blue, do another big circle. So I like to do 3 big circles, and then do medium-sized yellow one up here, because that'd kind of be where like the star would be. Then you could do a couple over here, and then simply grab your wooden shape, and this of course is from that same pack that I've been using. I look for the best side, and then I put glue on the other one. These are actually pretty, I'm really surprised for $2 how I got 18 really good looking good looking shapes from this set. And there you go. We've got so we just made 12 cards out of that $2 package of of wooden, I keep wanting to say chipboard, it's wooden shapes, and a little bit of very inexpensive 4 for $1 paint. And I've got another quick idea to show you too. The thing I want you to do is look in your stash, use the stamps you have, adapt it to what you have on hand. If you don't have these wooden shapes, you could die cut a Christmas tree like 5 times out of cardstock and stack it up and get a thick shape like that, or just use a regular die cut or a sticker. It doesn't matter. Use what you have and use these ideas to kind of bang out some of those cards, have a little fun, stress-free, relaxing card making time, and you'll get to send them to your friends and family. So I got one more idea for you in just a minute. This last idea is really fun, really simple, and you do both of these cards the exact same way. The sentiment is embossed with a tinsel, and then I just used an assortment of pads here, and I have them just ahead of me with the stamp that goes with it right on there. So I've got a pad for each color, a stamp and a mount for each color, so it makes it really quick. And I just went rainbow order, and I just like how the embossing tinsel gives me a nice little glitter. Of course, you can just use regular stamping ink, but if you have the tinsel, it's fun to use. And then I did the exact same thing, but with snowflakes. So you can use whatever Christmas theme image you have if you're doing Christmas cards. Just put a new twist on it with the rainbow order. So we're going to start off with a basic card. I'm just going to do the Christmas tree one because they're both pretty much the same. And I'm going to start by dusting it with a cornstarch pouch. And actually this helps for 2 things. It helps with when we go to emboss, but it also helps because I have some really inexpensive clear stamps here that are not the best quality. I mean, they're fine. They're what you get at the craft store usually, but sometimes like ink can skip, and I do find that having the cornstarch there does really help. And then I'm going to ink up my first tree, and I'm going to put that right there. And then I'm putting this right back on my ink pad so that it'll be ready to go for my next card. Then I'm going to ink up my second tree, and I am using full-size ink pads because that way I can, you know, do it quickly, and I have them. You don't have to do that. It's just going to take a little longer with your mini ones. And then I'm going to put this one up higher, like it's further away because it's small. I also made sure I used solid stamps for the lighter colors so that they would have a little bit more body to them. And we'll do this one here, this nice green one. And so I went with really bright colors. I didn't go with like the, you know, more customary Christmas tones. I went with nice vivid tones. And I think I'll throw in a little snowflake. Put that right up there. And then for the sentiment, again, I am going to use, I love this Season's Greetings. I'll show you the stamp set. I think this one is still available. It's TPC Studios Woodland Winter. And I got this at Joann's, I'm pretty sure. And they don't turn over their stamps that often, so chances are they still have it. If I can find it on Amazon or Simon Says Stamp, I'll link it up. It's a really pretty stamp, and it's rubber, so as opposed to clear, it's a rubber stamp, so it really inks up well. Oh, as I say that, I completely mess up that, but instead of trying to restamp that, I'm gonna emboss it, then I'm gonna fill in the rest with a pen. And I'm just gonna sprinkle on, I'll move my stuff over here just so you can see, because I want to make sure I don't get powder up there just in case that ink is still wet. Now the ink up there is dye based, so it would tend not to want to grab the embossing ink, but if it's wet at all, it will grab it. So I'm going to blow off the excess, or tap off the excess, and then I'm just going to heat this. Now this is really tricky. It's hard to see when it is, when it has changed. So the ink will look just slightly darker, and then you just move it on down. It's really, really tricky to see. And I do find that like this little stray pieces that are just on the cardstock don't seem to heat up and stick. The tinsel is not going to give you a raised design. It's just going to give you that sparkle. So let me show you how to fix this with a pen. And I'm actually going to use an embossing pen that's black. So if you have that, that's great. If you don't, just use a regular pen and don't worry about it really. I might be able to re-emboss that little area. So I'm just off camera. I'm just sprinkling on a little powder. Oh yeah, it did stick. So there we go. And I'm just going to hit that real quick to set it. So that pretty much just sets it. It doesn't really make it raised like a regular powder would, but I can, oh shoot, I should have let that dry a little better. Oh my, it's falling apart here at the end. But anyway, hold on. There you go. And there's our finished, I feel like Martha Stewart. And there we go. There's our finished turkey right out of the oven. But it gives you another idea on how to do. I'm totally sending that card. It's too late in the game for me to get picky over my cards. But there you go. There's the last 2 ideas for you. Really, it's 5 ideas that you can adapt for your Christmas cards this year. I'll grab the other ones to show you really quick if I haven't set them out site? Oh, they're right here. Okay, so we've got the dashing through the snow. These are all done, of course, with the wooden chipboard, wooden pieces, whatever the heck you call them, from the stationery discount section at AC Moore. And rocking around the Christmas tree and joy to the world. And then our two little stamped ones. I think they're fine. You know, they're not going to win any awards, but you know, it's a week till Christmas. They're fine. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy quick tip videos like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.